Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Chef Rob. Now that we're into apple season, we're going to use all the different type apples. I have a lot of YouTube videos out there, I have a lot of live classes. Today we're going to take apple fritters, but we're going to take apple fritters and make it into a bread. And we're going to use Granny Smith apples. So this is called a Granny Smith Apple Fritter Bread. Okay, so get ready, please make this. We're going to start off by taking a 1/3 cup of brown sugar. I'm using the light brown sugar. I prefer that in this. Make sure it's nice and packed, just like that. Put that right in here. And then 1 teaspoon. So you're going to use 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in the recipe, but right now 1 teaspoon with the brown sugar. And then you're just going to make a little crumbly mix. Okay, a brown sugar cinnamon crumb mix. Okay, just make sure it's really combined really nicely. And then we're just going to set this aside. Okay, now I'm using a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan. A quick trick is to take a piece of parchment paper, fit it to the bottom, kind of have it overhang just like this, and give it a quick spray. So when we put the batter in here and this comes out of the oven, we can just lift it right up. Okay, so do this with all your breads. Really good trick. When you're baking this, turn on your oven to 350. So if you're making this right now, go put on your oven to 350. That way when the batter is done, it goes right in the oven. Always take a sheet of aluminum foil and put it on the rack above. Prevents it from getting too dark too quickly. Okay, if you like it a little browner, you can always take that foil off. But try not peeking in the oven too often, okay, because it really reduces the temperature. You want to keep it as 350 as much as possible, okay? So let's take 2 Granny Smith apples. This is a medium size. You can use medium to large. Sometimes the Granny Smiths, they even come really, really small. If that's the case, put in 3, okay? If you're not a Granny Smith apple fan, use an apple that you really enjoy that really holds up in baking. Like a Macintosh apple wouldn't hold up, and it kind of would become kind of mushy. Okay, so just take this peel right off. Some people like to use the peeler, some people like to use a paring knife. I like to use the paring knife. And this bread will take about 50 to 60 minutes in the oven in 350 again. Okay. I hope everybody's doing well out there, and I hope get back to see you again really soon in person. I think we're on our way, right? Fall season. Fall is so great with the pumpkins and the apples. So, just really good. Good times in the fall. Take the apple, just cut that right off, go right up against the core. Make sure no pits get in there. And then we're just going to dice this up. So these 2 apples will be plenty for this bread. This bread will have a nice thick batter so it will not spill over in your oven. So don't worry about that. As I always tell people, if you're ever afraid that it's going to spill over, always put a piece of aluminum foil on the rack below, and that way it will catch anything. Okay. Quick dice, just like this. You can make it large chunks, small chunks. Okay, it's a preference of what you really like. A little brown spot there, so let's cut that right out. Try to always buy the apples that are inside the supermarket that are refrigerated. The ones that aren't refrigerated, a lot of times it will tend to get a little mealy, kind of mushy. So don't buy the ones that are outside the supermarket, because the weather really affects them by being cold at night and then warm during the day. Okay. Done. on. And then I use these flexible cutting boards. They're really good, so if you have something like this, like the apple, you just kind of take it and just kind of bend them like that, and they dishwasher safe, so really good like that. Now let's just take 2 tablespoons of the granulated sugar and 1 teaspoon of the cinnamon. And we're just going to give this a little mix, just like this. And we're going to set this aside, and then we're going to start onto our next bowl. So a few bowls with this. So let's take 1 stick, which is a 1/2 cup unsalted butter, room temperature, not too soft. And just drop that right in here. And now we want 2/3 of a cup of the granulated sugar. Very important to put the correct amount in here. So this is 1/3, and then 1 more 1/3. We're going to put the electric beater on here for 2 minutes on a medium speed. Just want to get it nice and combined. Okay, so 2 minutes is up. Let's add 1 egg at a time. And we want to get this nice and incorporated into our sugar butter mixture. And then we're going to add the other egg. Like that. As soon as that's incorporated, we are going to add in our vanilla. We want 2 teaspoons of vanilla, so you're really going to get that vanilla flavor in this bread. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to take my 1 teaspoon. Whoop. 1 teaspoon. Now just a little bit less because I put a little too much in there. That's perfect. Now let's just turn this on and get it all mixed in really well. And you can always just scrape down the sides to make sure everything is mixed in really well. That looks good. Okay, this is perfect, this batter. Let's take 1½ cups of the all-purpose flour. So I'm using my 1/2 cup, nice and level, just like that. And now my 1 full cup, so 1½ cups of flour. Baking powder. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of the baking powder. You can always take and kind of go right up against the lip of whatever you may use, whether it's the can or you have it in a little cup like I do. So 2 teaspoons, that's going to give it a nice rise. 1/4 teaspoon of the salt. The salt will just bring out all the flavors in this bread. And now we're going to turn our mixer on again, just until the batter is all combined, and then we're going to turn it off. We don't want to overmix the batter. Okay, make sure you get up against the side of the bowls. That is all combined nicely. I am now going to add in 1/2 cup of the whole milk. And I just want to do it until it's nice and combined. Try to use the whole milk. It really does matter in baking that you use the correct ingredients that is on the recipe. And just scrape down the sides as well. And then we're going to start layering this into our pans. This is a nice smooth batter. This has a lot of flavor. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. I want to make sure I get everything off the beaters. Take everything off your spatula. Okay, I'll leave that actually on the side. I'm going to pop these off. Okay, you can just kind of tap these, get any extra batter off. Put them in our measuring cup. And now we have our prepared 9x5 baking pan. So I am just going to kind of fold this over for right now. And I'm going to drop half of the batter in here. That doesn't want to stay, so I am just going to take my little spray can, go like that. Half of the batter. Just drop that right in here. And then just kind of gently spread it out. Just get it to all of the sides. With the baking powder, that's what's going to give it the rise in here. So this will become a nice sized bread. This freezes really well. Okay, half our batter is in the pan. Let's take half of the apples and just kind of evenly distribute these. Just kind of spread them out using a wooden spoon here. Okay, just a few more. And now, remember what we first did? We had our brown sugar cinnamon mixture. Take half of this amount, okay? Sprinkle it right on top of the apples. Okay, that should be good. Now just take a dull, like a butter knife, and just kind of go around and let that cinnamon brown sugar mix just kind of drop into the batter. There's not too much batter on the bottom, but when it rises, this will really help it along. Okay. So now we have our apples, our batter, and our brown sugar cinnamon mixture here. Let's take the remaining batter, and we're going to spread that right on top. The apples. If you can kind of just drop it along the way as you're going down the pan, it'll make it easier to spread out. So if you like apple fritters, this bread will be for you. You'll make it over and over again. Great through the fall, anytime really. Thanksgiving, oh, this would be great on Thanksgiving. We always look to make something a little different each year on Thanksgiving. And now I'm going to take the apples, drop them right on top. So this bread is full of apples. If you really like your apples, 3 would be the most you want to put in there just because of the water content, okay? And now just evenly spread these throughout. Your oven should be on the 350. You're going to keep this bread in there for about 50 to 60 minutes towards the lower rack. A sheet of aluminum foil on the rack above this bread, not on top of the bread, but above it. And use a toothpick to see if it is finished. Now, our remaining brown sugar cinnamon mixture. And then you could take a dull knife, like a butter knife, and just kind of swirl that in just a little bit. Just kind of brings everything in together. While this is baking, we will make our glaze for this. Very simple glaze. Just powdered sugar and some milk. And this just kind of drops the cinnamon sugar down into the batter. So this is going to go in our oven, 350, 50 to 60 minutes. While the Granny Smith Apple Fritter Bread is in the oven, let's take a half cup of powdered sugar, and we're going to take 1 tablespoon of the whole milk. You can use heavy cream or half and half for this. Just put that on there. And now let's just whisk this. And you want it to be a nice, thick consistency. It's a very sweet glaze, so you don't need a lot. You can see how it kind of really reduces down to just about nothing. But this will do the whole bread. So you would take this glaze when the bread comes out of the oven and it is cooled for about 15 minutes. Make sure it's really cool. You could take a whisk and you could just kind of drizzle this right over the top of the bread, just like that. You can use a little spoon if you want to use it, okay? But this is the consistency that it should be. Okay, so we have this ready for when our bread comes out of the oven and cools. Everybody, our Granny Smith Apple Fritter Bread is done. Just lift it out. Remember what we did? We sprayed this parchment paper right here, and you can lift it right out onto the plate here. Make sure it is nice and cool. We have our glaze that we made earlier. You don't have to use it all. It depends on how sweet or not sweet you like it. So just take a little drizzle just like this. Make it really look pretty. Either a wire whisk, a spoon, anything like that. A squeeze bottle. Just a little bit more. And this is a beautiful bread. I hope you will make this with your family, and I hope you enjoy. And stay well. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.